when it comes to love, you think logic works?
You don't even have to have
There's
like
no
a
logic
PhD.
in love.
I feel like
Hey, you'll be surprised to get a PhD, and when it comes to love,
Yeah,
you're like the
you're
most
like-
silly person ever.
True. You know, everyone keeps talking about finding their perfect match, but whose responsibility is it? Is it your parents, community, or even social media? Whose is it?
Well, if you think dating apps have replaced traditional meetups and matchmaking in Africa, think again. My name is Fatih Eli Kamuloshi.
And I am Rachel Nduati.
What do you think? I mean, traditional dating, modern dating.
Well,
how does it look
I will
already?
say dating in this day and age is very, very tough.
Yes.
It's tough out here
tough.
from what I'm hearing from friends because, you know, the previous way of dating, the way our parents dated, for example, was very different. Writing letters, finding each other, you know, they used to also tell each other, let's meet in the cinema. And then they just go to the cinema.
Banta bar.
Exactly. And they didn't have this whole texting. They didn't
Yeah.
have social media to look up to. But now it's a bit of a tough one because everyone is modeling this via social media. They're looking at their relationship, they're posting, and it complicates everything, to be honest.
I agree, that does complicate it. And for most people, modern dating could work. But for some, it's really a lot of giving so much of yourself, and it's physically and mentally exhausting. And I think that's also fair enough because when you look at it, the intent is not communicated at the outset, right? You go into it and maybe in the long term, you can finally decide if this is a committed relationship that you want to pursue. Whereas traditionally, which could also even be a courtship,
Yes.
the intent is discussed from the outset.
end goal is clear.
The end goal is clear for everyone, and you know exactly what you're doing even before going out.
But that's the thing, though, you know, like you mentioned, and I think it's really tough at the moment to merge this two, to merge traditional dating and modern day dating, because at the end of the day, people are still we're still Africans, we still have African culture, thinking about it still, and we're like, okay, so we're both earning. What are we gonna do? Who's gonna pay for the bills?
Where are we?
Let's go to Nigeria for now and find this out from Favor. Where are people meeting their partners, and is it through apps or traditional meetups?
If you're single in Lagos, where do you actually meet someone these days? Through friends, at work, at church, or are we all just on dating apps and sliding into each other's DMs?
I will actually say social gathering.
A social gathering where we can meet face to face.
I'll prefer probably the walkway, the social gathering like a lounge, something like that.
And in fact, I believe that what works for A will not work for B, but I prefer social media.
Okay, I can't go on a dating app. It's very risky and all. So I feel like probably it will just happen. Like you can literally meet anybody so long as it's the right person. You can meet someone like in the school, in church.
I would prefer meeting with your friends, social gatherings generally.
I met the person I was dating back then in uni, and mostly friends linking us up and all that.
Well, church, social gatherings, true friends.
More social gatherings and then through training, like training section, volleyball training.
You know, first dates, we always say these are interview compatibility tests. You're just weighing the waters to see who fits where.
Yes.
And I think in an African setting, of course, it's a diverse continent. There's going to be different languages. There's going to be different forms of culture.
Yeah.
So trying to merge those two, sometimes, especially in this generation where people are really exposed to education, they really tend to, you know, just get along and look for what works for them and see where it ends.
I mean, there are clearly a lot of factors that people consider before going into a serious relationship, as we see here. I mean, I've seen people who have considered tribes, and I've seen people who did not really care about the tribe. At the end of the day, we've heard people say different things, you know, values. Some say they consider religion as well. But we even have the caste system where you cannot marry a member of a certain caste.
Explain,
I think
please.
it's a very long story.
Because what?
It's like a hierarchy of where you have the nobles down to the slaves. I mean, this is a very old concept, traditional concept. And I think now it's changing because a lot of people no longer subscribe to that. Certain families don't subscribe to it. But there are other families that take it very seriously, especially in certain tribes. They take the caste very seriously.
Yeah, and I think it's also a matter of compatibility because dating is hard in itself. And so whether you or not you follow somebody's culture, that's a matter of preference. But there's also the external noise that is also existent.
Yeah. I believe it takes more than self-awareness to get to that point of saying, saying culture and tradition don't matter. I mean, Lagos is also a very big city, and there are different and diverse people coming from different cultures and from different areas in Nigeria. And so it's pretty much easy and understandable if people have this open mind in their decision making. But can we say the same of other cities? So we want to try something different. Let's go out of Lagos and head over to the north there in Kano to see what people there have to say about this.
Like, I'm not a Yoruba person, not Igbo. Igbo can never marry an Hausa man. I've not even seen when it has happened before.
As a young lady from Kano State, can you marry a guy from Anambra or Ado-Ekiti?
We Hausa, we want to be marrying within our own culture so that we understand each other more better.
Some families even marry from within the family, ma. Not even within the family. You just have to marry maybe your cousin.
For a very long time, many people believed that women from Kano State must marry either from Fulani or Hausa community. Is that true?
We actually expose ourselves. We marry out of our community, out of our society. So. But though some don't, they prefer marrying people within Kano.
But society is changing and many young people are beginning to challenge those expectations.
Yes, nowadays they are free too, but in all those days they are not actually.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you think intertribal marriage will help to unite Nigeria?
If Hausa can marry Igbo, then Igbo can marry Hausa in Nigeria, then we'll have a peace. No any tribalism.
Across Africa, many young people are trying to balance between tradition and personal choice. And for some, marriage has become part of that conversation.
Well, marriage is indeed part of that conversation. And I was listening to Samson in that report. And I remember when I was young, right, we had this sort of like couple, very renowned couple in Kenya, from two different communities. And they were really famous. There was Otieno and there was Wamboi. And they really were this model of, you know, an intertribal marriage. And they sort of had to make it work. And the argument was that, you know, the whole tribalism thing, that's colonial thinking, because if you look at colonization, right, the British used divide and rule. So they used to look at the tribes that are really not interacting well. And then they're like, you know, these tribes are actually like irreconcilable. So that means then that we can spread bad news about these tribes. But post-colonial thinking wise, I think Kenya is also very progressive in terms of like intertribal relationships.
It's good to see those progressive stories as well. So people are very intentional in setting out very clearly what is going to work for them, but also for the family. And I think that is also a little bit difficult and it's really sad because love is a tricky game, you know.
You know, it's also like it depends on the person. Are you like a much more like emotional, not really logical person? Because I feel like you
think when it comes to love, you think logic works?
You don't even have to have
There's
like
no
a
logic
PhD.
in love.
I feel like
you'll be surprised to get a PhD, and when it comes to love, you're like the most silly person ever.
True. But you know who knows?
Tell
Maybe
me.
it's a matchmaker. Because I think that, you know, people really have this sort of like attribute towards dating apps. They think that dating apps are really not cool. But they're trying to look for other ways, and this is matchmaking.
Yeah, and I think it's actually very fair if someone wants to be clear about what they're looking for, the values, the tradition. If someone considers their tradition, I think that's also should be noted. If someone
100%.
considers religion, noted. Values, noted. But then how can we bring these things together to form a match?
Through a matchmaker.
It's mostly transactional.
In this generation, everybody had made it seem like to date, you need to date a boy that has money to be in a happy relationship here.
I mean, you can literally do everything for the woman, and the woman will still do the shit she won't do. I mean, still the same thing for the guy.
Well, generally it's a mess. People are afraid of getting hurt. People have insecurities they haven't healed from.
So like the dating pool, I mean, it's messy, it's crazy. People are cheating, they are not honest.
From dating apps to social media relationships, many say trust is becoming harder to find. So could traditional matchmaking and family-assisted introductions offer an alternative?
Most people come into the platform to get matchmake. I've tried one relationship or the other. And when they see that it's not working, they look at it, okay, let's see if we can try matchmaking. Let's see if a private person can come, match us together, and then let's have discussion. People are now modernizing it. It's now about are they compatible? Please, can you get us someone that is compatible or that is likely to be compatible with this particular person? So it's not going to end.
But with many young people describing today's dating scene as confusing and transactional, could they be open to traditional ways of finding their true life partners?
Dating for marriage works, number one. My mom will not come to me and tell me that, Afa, I get one kind of husband for you. I don't even know this much from anywhere.
I actually don't believe that they actually dated back in those days. I think they all did this matchmaking stuff. If my parents pick me an allergy that is rich and he doesn't beat women, he takes care of the women he loves, I'm down. I really do not mind at all, as long as he's a good person.
And for some singles, the growing interest in matchmaking reflects a desire for commitment and more purposeful relationships.
There are parents that come to our platform to ask and say, oh, please, could you match my daughter? Could you match my son? And at the end of the day, they live happily ever after. So it is an opportunity for you to believe, to accept that matchmaking still works. All you just need to do is to be intentional about yourself.
True. You know, I was watching her and I remembered, like, sometimes when I go on TikTok, there's so many matchmakers on TikTok live.
Really?
Yes, it's like a gig economy. And like people just, and I think people trust them more because I think the idea is that the participants are always like turning on their camera. So it's very hard to be catfished.
I think it's safe to say that the dating pool is messy and that this generation is experiencing a dating
100%.
fatigue due to lack of trust and commitment issues. You know, are people
Sure.
willing to compromise? Are people, because I think it's just difficult to get that perfect person.
And I think with a matchmaker, it's actually good because, you know, people always think that the other person is the problem. So maybe the matchmaker actually helps you to understand, okay, so you have this problem and he also has this problem or she has this problem.
I mean, what I see here is young people being open to trying new things, while the matchmaker also gives you a sense of security because you know what you want. Now it's just a matter of compatibility and seeing if it works. I think that, and I believe that marriage is still a very important cultural and social
100%.
milestone in Africa, but young people just want to do it on their own terms and timelines.
sure.
And we head into this conversation even further because Edith was there in Ghana to open this discussion about marriage and expectations even further.
For men, I think money is always top of mind. But for you, before you got married, was money a consideration at all?
Before we got married, I had to know whether he's responsible and then he has a job that he can take care of me before I agreed that we should get married. So financial responsibility, yes, I took that into consideration.
What about for you? Did you need to be financially secure before you committed to become married?
No, I don't have anything doing. It's my husband that is taking care of me 100%. The husband is working and is able to provide the basic needs. You are okay to go. I didn't have to consider whether I am working and I can take care of myself before I got married. No.
Yeah. So if, say, Ibrahim didn't have a job, would you have married him?
No.
Oh, Ibrahim. Lucky for you, you had a job. But was finances a huge consideration for you?
For me personally, no. As far as you are able to take care of yourself and the basic needs, I think you are good to go.
But it's interesting here because Mariam is saying that for her it was a really important thing, but for you, not so much. So what was the value for you? What, as far as the things that were important before you got married, what was at the top?
So for me, the first is character. The second is that we all agree with each other. And then the third is we are aligned with our goals, our character and faith.
So, Musia, I want to come to you for a second because you actually were married. So, to what extent was wealth a factor of consideration before you decided to take the vow?
Before you decide to take a vow in a marriage, you have to be financially stable because if unexpected happens to the man, what will you do? Will you ask for help outside or what are you going to do?
So that debate right there was in Kumasi in Ghana, and this is actually a very predominantly Christian society, but still has a Muslim population of up to 20%. You know, money conversations in an African household have never been easy. And it's even uncomfortable when it comes to like dating, because like in some societies, I don't know about in the Gambia, but in Kenya, like people are more expressive about money. But if you look at like the East African perspective, people like don't really love talking about money.
And it's important to talk about it.
But money will always be be a conversation, and sometimes also like paying for a date. These are tangible proofs of affection in the African society. Dating in itself is also hard because in the African setting, people don't have jobs. They are trying. This is still the generation that's so much unemployed. So dating is even harder for them.
And expensive. But I'm also there and wondering, we always say that the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. What's the way to a woman's heart? Like, no one is ready for that conversation, really. We always prepare women that you have to give, you have to convince, like you have to just please. How is the man supposed to please a woman? If the woman asks for her gold and diamonds, she's termed a gold digger. How else are you working towards making her happy?
Yeah. You know, sometimes if you think about it, like I spoke with somebody the other day and they told me that they do have like joint accounts, but the woman has like a separate hidden account. And so she said that this hidden account, it's for security, just in case something happens. And women are always told this. And she also said that her money is her money. And the boyfriend's money is their money. In the African context, this is always how it is, because chances are the patriarchy still exists and women are still going to be like very vulnerable. They're not going to get those opportunities.
You know, of course, we know that women also need to have something going on for themselves. But you know what? Let's delve a little bit more into the financial aspect, because there are a lot of expectations. And I think finance is a very critical aspect, because clearly the lives have to be fed and they also have to be sheltered. But let's see how that is panning out in the debate here.
They were talking about money issues, but not forgot, before going into the marriage, we made mention for better, for worse. But why are you always wanted to enjoy the better part, but not the worst parts? This is the case whereby you are dependent on the man fully, and then anything or everything concerning your social, anything that you wanted him to take in charge of it. But don't forget, he's a human being. As time goes on, he might get tired of how he's spending on you. So why not, at the moment that he be giving you money, you be saving some of the money, then you use it for your other needs. My sister made mention of if the person is taking fully care of you 100%. That is where the abuse comes, because he sees it as he is the one providing you. You have nothing to do for yourself. I will always encourage ladies that kind of attitude or kind of behavior, they should stop it. Because normally they buy the abusive behavior of the man on them. Because after all, without him, she can't survive.
That sounds like victim blaming. I'm not so sure I like that.
It's compulsory for the men to do that, because that's their job. They have to take good care of the ladies.
All right. Yeah.
To me, it's not compulsory. As a lady, you have to have value of yourself.
Well, Rachel, marriage is a contract. And depending on where you are, there are terms and conditions. If we say, okay, the man shouldn't do it, let's be honest, let's be fair. If the man should not do it, then the burden clearly would rest on the woman.
Especially
it
if
has
they
to
have
rest
kids.
on someone.
If they have kids. And I read a study right now, actually, like in the African continent, there's a lot of people who are choosing not to get married. And marriage rates are declining. But what is not declining is cohabiting. So people are choosing to move in together, do the whole thing, do the whole boyfriend and girlfriend thing, but not get married. But also financial experts actually warn that if you move in together and you don't have a plan, then it's the woman who's going to carry that shoulder at the end of the day. And if they have kids, then it's even going to be worse.
We've seen
there's
that.
no documentation of this.
I think that's why in Islam it's very clear. And I wanted to bring that up because the people that we've seen in that debate, you know, we've seen the Muslim girls, we've seen the Christians as well, and you can hear them and their different perspectives. It is because of the basis that they're talking from. In Islam, there's something called the mahar. The mahar has to be paid before the marriage is even finalized. It's a gift for the woman. It's for her taking. It's not for the family. Nobody can take that from the woman.
This is for her.
It belongs to the
woman. But who negotiates for this?
She can negotiate with the husband and they decide what exactly she wants for her dawah. But the dawah, which is the mahar, has to be something of value. So either gold or something, like an asset. And the reason why that is because in case of eventuality, maybe in the case of divorce or death, she can use that to rebuild. Anything she wants to do out of her own accord, there's the basis for mutual understanding and communication. And that has been given to the couple to decide how they want to rule. But you cannot abuse her financially or physically. That is a no-go area.
There you have it. What's the best way, guys, to settle this as a couple?
If you do decide to get married again, is money something that you will put at the top, or is it something that you won't really consider?
No, I won't put money at the top, but what I will consider is I'm working, but he should still take care of me. My money is a security for me. And also it's a buffer for the family. Okay. In case of unexpected happens, I chip in.
What happens if, bad luck, he loses his income? Would you still stay with him?
I will, because we married because we loved each other and we had shared goals. So we are all working towards the goal, and as we are going, if we fall off, that does not mean I should leave. I will try to pick him up, then we go together. Love, I will define as something that you do, no matter what you do, to make your partner feel comfortable. So love is you making your partner comfortable, not leaving him behind. So if he fall off, I'll pick him up, then we go together.
We always saw like happily ever after,
I
right?
like the idea.
But here's the thing. We don't know what happens in the after. And in the after, that's where like life really happens. You start understanding this man's habits, for example. You start understanding whether this person actually snores. Or are you like, you get those icks or quirks and you're like, is love still enough? And then also like the financial thing that we talked about before. So like all these things, you need like mutual understanding and support.
I'm a big fan of mutual understanding and support. I'm a big fan of be clear about your intentions and set your goals earlier on and reach an agreement. Of course, now we're in a modern society, you know, there's so much compassion that we can give and support in the household. Because at the end of the day, this is the only way you can face the reality. Because after the love, there is real life. And, you know, we always say that love heals, but also love hurts.
But also, there are people who are also trying to make it work, despite the pressure from culture, religion, social media, society, whatever. And they choose themselves above all these things. Have a look at this.
Like, no, you know, this is our daughter, we want our daughter back.
Actually, they wanted to take me back to Mombasa that day.
I'm a member of the St. Hildegard Choir. I really enjoy praising and just singing in the church.
When my family found out that I was with a non-Muslim man, they got so mad and furious, especially my mom. She didn't take it easy. I knew it was serious when after my aunties and my sisters told me to stop hanging out with that Christian friend of yours. And I was like, no, he's such a cool dude. You guys don't know.
We face a lot of, should I call it backlash? So yeah, a lot of people, you know, friends will tell you, oh, it can't work, it can never work, you know.
Because that's what they believe, that's what they were made to believe. What they don't understand is we are changing, we are growing.
When a Christian man marries a Muslim woman, religious convention is that he first converts to Islam and for the marriage to follow Islamic rites.
The conversation about him converting came up even before the marriage. They came and they found out that I was actually pregnant before marriage, and that's when they started forcing him to convert. So I told him, if I'm Muslim and I'm not comfortable to convert to be a Christian, why would I make you convert to be a Muslim? You're not willing to do it.
When Shifaa's family learned she would not ask Justin to convert, the reaction was rather severe.
He was so pressured.
Because I had to choose between my family and him. I was actually put in that situation where I was told you have to choose between us or him.
So we had a knock on the door. She opened. After she opened, she turned at me and was looking at me with this look she looked at me with. And I just knew. I asked them, why come at night? Like, why come at night? It's not like I'm running away. It's not like we are hiding. And they were like, no, you know, this is our daughter. We want our daughter back.
Actually, they wanted to take me back to Mombasa that day.
Yeah, so they wanted
that night.
Without their family's blessing, Justin and Shifaa chose a civil union, skipping the traditional and religious ceremonies that define most Kenyan weddings.
We thought it could be neutral and also it could be legal at the same time.
Theirs is still a rather rare story, but it's proof that two faiths can share one home.
So we just think about those days and we laugh about it because, well, it was tough, but now it's just a story that we can laugh about.
when you love someone, you're patient with them. And I think that is what comes. Like when you love someone, you understand them, you empathize with them, you understand their situation, and you're willing to help.
Yeah. Previous generations, like my grandmother, for example, they had a great love story. They were married for so long. And I look at now, like, it's hard to hear that people have been married for so long. And it's because there's this whole like comparison trap or like the performative trap, which is also a sad thing to see.
We are in a very difficult world, and no one society has the answers because we've got different kinds of communities as well. In every society, like people have different backgrounds, people have different values, different things that you're looking out for. At the end of the day, I think what works is coming together and deciding for yourselves if that is very important for you. I think in the end as well, no one has the perfect answer.
Yeah, but we also want to know, are you in love? Where are you finding that love from? Do you have any advice? Be part of a conversation at the 77%.
Yeah.
And follow us on our social media platforms. We're looking forward to hear from you.
And that brings us to the end of the show today. I've had a good time.
This was interesting.
Thank you so much for watching. My name is Fatih Ali Kamuloshi.
And I am Rachel Ndwati. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. This one.